The Orange Zone pregame show is sponsored by Kerner Ford.
It's the Orange Zone pregame show sponsored by Kerner Ford. She's Samantha Croston. I'm Tyler Melito. Sam, before we look ahead for Syracuse women's lacrosse this Friday, we got to look back to last Friday against Boston College in the regular season finale, a 15-13 loss for the Orange. What was your assessment of that game?
I mean, I think if anything, it showed how versatile Boston College is. We all knew that Charlotte North was going to definitely have a dent in that game, and she sure did. She had a hat trick. Knew you could only slow her down and not stop her. But you look at some of their other weapons. For example, Belle Smith, she's only a sophomore, and she had 5 goals in that game. So I think, of course, SU and Boston College pretty much bound to face each other again at some point down the line. I think you just have to know that a team like Boston College is versatile, and they have a lot more weapons than just Charlotte North at the helm.
Exactly, and we'll see how Kayla Trainer's team adapts to a possible future matchup. But looking to kind of this weekend into the postseason, SU moved up in the rankings to number 3 in the country if you look at inside lacrosse. How important is that, being number 3 in the country heading into the postseason?
I mean, I think it's exciting if you're Kayla Trainer. This is the first time that you are at the helm of this team, and she's doing such a good job. I would even go as far as to say exceeding expectations. And you know, going into the ACC tournament, right now SU is going to be the 3 seed. It's something to feel proud of, but something I always say is all bets are off when it comes to the playoffs. And even though they're going up against a team like Virginia, who you would think SU would have the edge in that game, everybody is going to have the mentality. All of these athletes, you either win or you go home. So it could make for some pretty interesting matchups.
It's do or die time. You mentioned Virginia. That's the opponent for Syracuse on Friday. And you also mentioned the success the Orange have had. They won in mid-March, 17-11. Syracuse has won 4 straight games against the Cavaliers, 11 of the last 12. So like you mentioned, you kind of think Syracuse, they kind of got this one in the bag, right?
No, that's what you say, but it's like you got to be careful, because I do agree. It should seem like you look at a bunch of the statistics, you look historically, it surely does seem like they have the edge. And I'm not a betting woman, but if I was, I would definitely bet that SU would make it to the next round. That being said, I don't think that you can just look at Virginia and pass right over them. They do have 3 wins in the ACC conference, which isn't great, but again, ACC conference, we always say, is the hardest conference to be in the entire women's lacrosse sphere. So they've been going up against good competition all year, but I would have to agree, offensively, surely SU overpowers them. And actually, Virginia's goalie has really not a great save percentage so far this season. So I think that shot placement and draw controls critical going into the matchup.
Certainly going to be critical. SU's firepower: Emily Harris-Chuck, Megan Tyrell, Megan Carney. The list goes on and on. There were 7 all-ACC players for Syracuse this year. Expand a little bit more for that firepower for the Orange.
Well, Tyrell, I mean, she scored 4 goals on 4 shots and finished with 5 points in the game against Boston College. She is shooting legitimately 100% in that game.
That's pretty darn good.
It's pretty good when you think about the fact that Rachel Hall is the goalie. There's a lot to be said about what she has accomplished and what she will accomplish as we continue into the season. But I mean, Tyrell, you just have to look no further than her. She now has 290 career points, 10 points away from becoming the 6th player in program history to reach that 300-point plateau. But she is one of many. Harris-Chuck, of course, such an inspirational story with her coming back, and she's been breaking records. She'll continue to break records. Megan Carney being back, it does seem like this SU team is peaking at the right time.
And they've all been playing together for so long. You think maybe this is their year finally to win that first national championship in program history.
I mean, how haven't they done that already?
It's certainly long overdue. But Virginia is no slouch either. They have a dynamic duo in freshman Rachel Clark, who was named to the All-ACC freshman team. And then you got Ashlyn McGovern, who is All-ACC first team. Each scored 52 goals this season. We saw it last week against Boston College. SU, they could control one, but they couldn't control multiple high-octane offensive players. Can they do it this week?
And that is going to be the issue, is not can you control one, but can you be managing both at the same time? The scariest part about a team that works offensively with a duo is that you know how well that team is going to work together, how well these 2 players and athletes, they've been on the same page for a long time, the entire season. You know how well they work together. But if SU defensively can even contain one of them or take them out of the mix, it is going to upset the entire offense. So whereas SU is a team that I feel offensively is a little more versatile, a little more dynamic, When you have this duo, if you can take one out of the mix, which I do feel like someone like Sarah Cooper surely can, then I think Syracuse is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, that's going to be the key for Sarah Cooper to lock down on her end and let everyone else around her do their job. But that game, Friday, April 29th at 7:30 p.m. from Notre Dame's campus in South Bend, Indiana, a neutral site. Before we go, Sam, we got to talk about the men's lacrosse team. They have one game left in the regular season, and I want to read you some stats. I want to tell you some stats about this team, because this is how crazy it's been. We mentioned last week on the Orange Zone, first time they're going to miss the postseason since 2007.
It's unbelievable.
First time they're going to have a losing record since 2007. The time before that, 1975. They had not had a losing record. So 3 times since 1975. And then the craziest one to me, Gary Gait, obviously the greatest lacrosse player of all time without question. In his 4 years at Syracuse, he only had 5 losses as a player, and they won 3 national championships. In his first year as a coach, they have 9, possibly 10 losses.
It's unbelievable when you think about the position it puts him in. He's used to, Gary Gait, Syracuse lacrosse.
Oh my God.
That was an era. It was a dynasty, and it's something people still talk about to this day. He really cultivated the program there, but that's why they trust this program in his hands again. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think you have to give Gary Gait more than 1 year to be able to cultivate this team. He has great recruits and talent coming in, spearheaded by Joey Spallina. Once you get those recruits in, if this team is still lagging, then come talk to me and I'll eat my hat. But until then, I think we got to give him a couple more years to get this situation figured out.
If Syracuse football can give Dino Baber some time to figure it out, I think Syracuse lacrosse fans can give Gary Gait some time to figure it all out. But the regular season finale for the Orange is Sunday inside the Dome at noon against Notre Dame. It's a final game of the season for the SU men. But the SU women, they'll keep the good times rolling in the ACC tournament. They got at least one game Friday against UVA. For Samantha Croston, I'm Tyler Melito. This has been the Orange Zone pregame show, sponsored by Kerner Ford. We'll see you next time.
The Orange Zone pregame show is sponsored by Kerner Ford.